Your audio's connected.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mic check.
Hello.
1, 2, 3.
Okay, sound good. Alright. Have that. Everything's up and running good. Alright, we are good and live. Hello, everyone. It is time for the XRS Wheel to Wheel Podcast, Episode 2. This week, once again, not joined by AK, but he was unable to make it tonight due to some schedule conflicting. And we are joined again by two guests. We are joined this week by Panda and Off-Road Hype. So, hello to you two, and thank you for being in this week's episode.
It's a
Thank you for
pleasure
having me.
being XRS treasure.
So, let's get right into it. You two, unlike last week, we had two very big veterans of XRS. You guys, Panda, you've been around XRS for a while. Off-Road, you're on the newer side, but you've been around here for a little bit. So, I guess we'll just start with the basic question of how did you both get into XRS? Whoever wants to go first, that's perfectly fine with me.
I can take one off road.
You want to go? You
Yeah,
sure?
yeah, yeah.
You're definitely on
We're
easy,
gonna
so
get,
go right
we're gonna
ahead.
get right into this. So basically, the way I got into XRS was I got the game for my birthday, and it was mostly a game that I was going to use just to practice racing for when I race actual cars in the real world. But I ended up hopping into a open lobby with our league owner, Culture, and he suggested that I hop in and I see how I feel about it. And ever since then, I've been in and out, but I enjoy it a lot.
All right. Then Off-Road?
So, being newer to it, I guess I've I don't have that much Xbox time as other people as late as they can go, and all the like most of the leagues you will find on Xbox are ran late. So I ended up watching FM do some league racing, which FM is another racer of the sport, and also
Mm-hmm.
my father. Um, and some leagues captured my interest as he kept racing, and I've wanted to join some, and I've got into a couple and just decided, or kind of burned the bridges down, so to say. And then FM started his own league up, and Smokey came along. Smokey's also been part of XRS for some time. Everyone knows or
Mm-hmm.
seems to know him pretty well. And in FM's league, Smokey offered me to come over to XRS and see what I can do, and I've liked it ever since, pretty much.
Yeah, you've been along for the ride ever since. So, both of you both of you obviously have gotten a better over the years. I mean, off-road, when you came in, you were kind of like a rookie sensation. You were, for sure, very fast. You had very competitive speed, even in the championship race last season, where you were leading, dominating most of that race. Unfortunately, you had a connection issue, I believe, correct?
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah,
There's a
had a
word I don't
connection
like to
issue.
hear.
And then Panda, you have started to improve a lot as a driver, not just this season, over many seasons, because obviously you've been here for a long time. But particularly this season, your average finishes are up from where you have to where we've typically known you to run. And I mean, I know you heard, but just last week, Reno and Cart, they had you as an underdog and a long shot for the championship, or not for the championship, but to at least get your first career win in the playoffs. So that has to put a lot of confidence in you for the rest of this season.
It does. I was definitely glad to hear that I had some recognition, but at the same time, it's getting very, very close, and
Hmm.
it's really going to come down to these last two races, and Daytona is going to be a lot of it. It's going to be about being in the right place at the right time, and I'm just really hoping that it falls my way.
Yeah. And Daytona, obviously, being the last race in the regular season, and that being the last race of the regular season, from you two in the driver's perspective, off road, you're both kind of fighting in the playoffs in a way. Off road, you're fighting for the ninth playoff spot, that wild card spot.
Hmm.
You're fighting to keep that position or trying to get it back. In Panda, you're just trying to stay in that top eight. So, what is the different perspectives of you both, especially heading into Road America this weekend, but then also how you're going to set up Daytona, it being the last race?
I'll go
I'm
here. I'll go
Go
here.
for it.
Like, as
Mm-hmm.
Panda said, he's trying to stay in the top eight. No offense, buddy. I wish you'd fall out. I want Reno in there. Because that's all I'm banking on right now. I feel like that's my best chance because I'm like 25 points out, which is half a race of points. I don't realistically see how I can make that up unless if I win the next two, which really isn't realistic. Daytona's kind of out in the air with who actually wins that. But Road America, I feel like that's going to be in Vanquish, Titan, or MVP's hand. But don't know how I'm going to go about this. But all I know is I need Panda to actually get past by Reno in the points. But I also don't want that to happen because Panda hasn't, he's been up there for a while. So I'm not sure which way I want the pendulum to swing.
The other way I was looking at it is if Reno just crashes and burns for these next two races, then we're both probably in. Because you're 25 points behind me, but you are only 16 points behind Reno. And
Oh,
if Reno crashes and burns in both these races, then there's a
There,
solid
there,
chance that
there
I
can
get in
for
that
sure be
eighth
a lot of
spot.
points to make up. Yeah, there's
I
can for sure be a lot of points to make up.
it's too close.
It is very close.
And knowing the
And
situations of the past two races where I've seen drivers that were way ahead, like Oracle, he was way in the playoffs. He wasn't worried about it. And then the past two or three races, he ended up finishing in the back due to he got taken out in one race. He ran out of fuel in another one. It's very easy to
mhm.
quickly fall out.
Yep, I would say the only people who are for sure very safe right now is probably the top four drivers because you have obviously Vanquish with 603 points. He's dominated most of the season. Kart Racer with 585, MVP with 582. Then you have Culture with a big gap of 509. And then he has a little bit of a gap on D-Dog, who's sitting at 498 currently. But as you stated, Panda, Oracle, he was up there. He was about 5th, 6th in the standings. And he thought he was going to be very safely in. But now there's, what, a 20-point gap, I believe, between Reno and him? Between Reno and Oracle. And as we've seen, that can for sure be a short gap in just two races that some driver who's really good can make up, as long as the other driver is kind of tanking a little bit and they're in the wrong place at the wrong time. So now we've talked a little bit on this current season. Now let's go over your guys' long run in XRS. How long you guys have been here overall. Panda, you reached some success last year because I believe you got your first career podium last season.
I did. I got
Yeah.
two, I think. Both the playoffs, which was very surprising. I couldn't do anything in the regular
Hmm.
season, but as soon as we got to the playoffs, the first two races, Daytona and Homestead in the rain, road course, I got second at Daytona and third at Homestead.
So you found yourself a few podiums there. Here, excuse me, sorry. Here, you find yourself, you're sitting at 8th right now. You have no playoff points, so you haven't found the podium quite yet this season. But if you are able to hang on these last two races, hey, this time if you're in the playoffs, going with the same mindset that you had last season in the playoffs, and were able to get two podiums out of that, which could give you enough momentum and could sneak you in. You might be able, like as Cart said last week, you might be able to barely make the top four, meaning you're just going to be outside of it, probably 5th in that 6th spot, which I'm sure you would take that as a huge improvement from last season.
Totally.
Then off road, you find yourself in a different situation from last season. Last season, you were comfortably in the playoffs, or were able to finally get into it that last few weeks.
Hmm.
You were battling a particular driver. I won't name who. Um, and you were able to clinch that final playoff spot to lock yourself in eighth, and then you made a run. You made a run in the playoffs, and you were able to get all the way to barely the top four until culture. We had all of that culture fiasco of he wasn't able to make it, so he eliminates himself from contention, but he still wants a fourth driver in, and so then you get the spot. How was how did you take that scenario? Like, how did you take that situation? Were you glad that the situation happened? Were you kind of
Yeah,
like, well,
bro,
I was just given the
that was a
opportunity,
roller
or
coaster of emotions. That was completely pissed from getting air loose. Like that race of the final, or the who it determined the four, which was at Indianapolis on the oval.
Mhm.
I got air loose by I don't even know who, and it was a tune your own race.
Yeah.
And I had a really good car made that was like it went through so many people to just to get to that race. To only have it myself get arrow loose and spin out. I'm not sure if I was mad at the person behind me more or myself at that point, but then to hear the drivers were like pushing the fourth race, or the final race back, and one person can't make it, or next thing you know, Culture says he can't make it, and I get I wouldn't say call, more like message that I'm in, was amazing. But then I kind of feel like I got down within a couple of days because Culture was able to make it, and then I go back up because he says he's already forfeited his spot and he won't
Mhm.
race. So it's just like,
That yeah, that was for sure. Yeah, because what happened is Culture announces that he's unable to make the championship race. He gives up his spot, and he gives up his spot, and he gives it to you. We come in championship weekend, but then with some championship drivers unable to make the race, we need to postpone. So we postponed the event an entire week. We postponed the event an entire week, and now Culture is able to show up. But like you said, he already forfeited his spot. He's like, you know what? No, off road. I believe he told me that, like, no, dude, off road. He had speed at Homestead from the previous race that we ran that season, and he's like, he was very much like off road has a way better shot than I do, so I'm just gonna give him my spot since I already forfeited it.
I
For
had
sure,
speed. Sorry,
provided a show.
I had speed at Homestead. My internet.
Your internet didn't have speed, but you did. um, so hopefully the playoff picture paints out pretty well for both of you, especially you guys being pretty much right on the edge of your seats, almost on these final two races. So obviously, I wish you guys both luck for those two races. It'll be awesome if both of you guys can get in, and you guys can make a run at it in your own way. Whether if you're trying to go for Champ 4 or if you're trying to be top 8. Or an Off-Roadscape's top 9. um, so now we've talked about your guys' racing careers and everything going on with that in XRS, but what would you guys say is other realms? Panda, you said you have a kart racing background, that you already do that. Kart Racer that we had on last week, he actually does that too. But it's from my understanding you do slightly different racing than he does.
Yeah, so Kart Racer does the dirt ovals,
Uh-huh.
which um is a lot different than what I do. I do the pavement road courses. And
Mm-hmm.
I feel like his driving is harder because it's so close and competitive. and it's so sketchy. I could never handle being out there and racing literally with three people around me. But when I race, it's normally one or two guys, and we normally just line up, go. There's normally not much action until the end. Um, but it's not really like, what's the way to put this? It's not really as much of kart racing as karts is. I see mine more as a smaller version of like a formula car because of how adapted they are.
Hmm. So you would say yours is just a very, very toned down Formula One, and a lot
Not
of
not Formula One. It's a lot because it's
actually maybe even IndyCar. You
yeah,
could
I
say
would say more
IndyCar.
of an Indy car.
Yeah, because I mean IndyCar, you have guys like Will Power and a bunch of other guys. I think New Garden as well. They also do go out karting on paved road courses in karts, but they obviously, I'm assuming, do it at a more professional level than how you are doing it. I'm
Yeah.
sure yours is more of a amateur or pro am level. I'm not quite sure where you would be at.
It's like state club racing. It's nothing like those big clubs. It's more like a school team, except it's just for your
Hmm.
state.
Okay. Okay. So, for sure, something above casual, like something that you just do for fun, but it's still something of higher value, if you could say,
Yeah.
of what you do. So, yeah, you could say that you're more at a pro am level then, if that's how you're describing it. Off road, is there any other interest that you do outside of Forza
No,
racing?
go to school, but I don't think that's interesting.
That's not very interesting.
But uh, I am looking into PSEO coming in next year. Get some maybe some free extra knowledge here soon though. That's about it, I guess.
What is PSEO?
You get to take college classes for basically free before you graduate.
Oh.
So if you
Ah,
you could shave off 2 years of college for like a 4 year college if you wanted to, and then you would have to pay those last 2 years for whatever you were going for.
oh. So it's kind of like taking care of your general education credits in a 4-year school.
Hmm.
Yeah. I should know. That's what I'm doing right now. Um, so, okay. Now, Panda, you were mentioning like downgrading IndyCar in your kart series. And we can say, speaking of that, what other motorsport do you follow? Outside of, obviously, we race NASCAR, so you need to follow that to an extent.
Um, I 100% follow NASCAR to an extent. I know the drivers. I know who's doing well, who's doing bad. But I'm more of an F1 fan actually, due to my road course racing background. Very
Hmm.
excited for the Bahrain Grand Prix this weekend. I have uh, I have some big money placed on Max.
Supermax.
Yes.
Uh, are you a Red Bull racing fan? Or
I am a Red Bull Racing fan, but before it comes to Red Bull Racing, I am a huge fan of Lando Norris. I cannot um, exaggerate enough how much I want Lando to come to Red Bull and race with Max after Sergio's contract is up, because I think that they will just be the most unstoppable team ever to be assembled, especially if Red
hmm.
Bull stays on the track that they're on with how good their car is.
Oh yeah, for sure. Red Bull is doing very, very well right now. I mean, it came down so close. Was it 2 seasons ago?
Yes,
It
with
was,
Hamilton and
yeah,
Verstappen, yes.
Hamilton and Verstappen, where it came down to the final race. So at that point, they were just trying to cut down Mercedes' dominance. But then it got to a point of either Mercedes, they're taking a few steps back while Red Bull's pushing forward, or it's just Red Bull, they're just pushing through that much. I
And
don't keep track of Formula One that much.
and
I used to keep track a lot when Sebastian Vettel was at Red Bull, but now I don't.
and even in that season, Mercedes still won the constructors championship, just because of
Hmm.
how much better Valtteri did than Sergio Perez.
And
But
Sergio, yeah.
in the end, it was still a Red Bull that was the drivers' champion over Mercedes.
Hmm.
What do
And
we think
then
about Final Four for this year in NASCAR? I was talking to somebody about this earlier.
Final Four this year. Are you talking XRS or Cup Series?
Uh,
Like real Cup Series?
Cup Series, real Cup Series.
Real Cup Series. Ooh.
It's a little bit early. It's a little bit early.
Yeah,
But
I would say I was about to say I'm like it's really early to say that.
I think it's really, really, really. I think the reason I feel like it's so early is because of how much of a wild card we had just at Daytona. We had Almirola
Mhm.
win a clash, and we had Recky Thinhouse win a full race.
Daytona
It's just,
500, yeah.
yeah, it's so random already, and it's kind of exciting.
I would
Random
say
already? You're telling me Kyle Busch winning Auto Club is not random? That dude has been strong at the Coliseum, Daytona, and Auto Club. I think he's going to the top 8, no doubt.
I think no, I think Kyle Busch he can for sure make a Champ 4 run this season. As much as I hate to say it, because Kyle he's a guy that I'm 50-50 on, man.
I'm
I
100% on him. He's my favorite driver in the.
For me, nah. He is not
Oh, I
my
see.
favorite.
Okay, I may have to do some
I kind
convincing
of
to my
back off
boss.
road on this. I kind of back off on this. I think Kyle Busch makes a run in that RSR or
RCR.
RCR,
RCR.
whatever.
Not whatever. An RSR is a Porsche.
In the RCR team, I think he comes to RCR and he puts down the power. He becomes the old Kyle Busch that we all knew.
Hmm. I think Kyle Busch is going to have a menace of a season because look at his past history. To where, uh, whenever Kyle Busch has a lot of doubt on him, he just springs upward in success. It's happened in his 2 seasons that he's won the championship in the Cup Series. It was either the season prior or when he won his first championship with his broken leg incident at Daytona. He just, I don't know, there's just something special about Kyle Busch. I'll give the guy credit. I'll give the guy props where it's due. I just personally don't like his personality a little bit, but that's the only reason why I don't like him.
That's the only reason why I
an
like him.
extent.
Can drive the car, can
um,
talk the talk, and walk the walk. But I'm afraid I'm gonna have to go here.
are you gonna have to go soon?
Well,
Nah, come on.
I got parents. I'm sorry.
Let's off road
I'll
his long
yell it.
shot before he goes.
Yeah,
Oh,
we'll say. Okay, go ahead, off road. You can give
well,
either XRS hot takes or your Champ 4. Say your last closing thoughts, and then me and Panda
um,
will finish out the rest of it.
well, our current two or top two in the point standings, I believe, is still MVP and Vanquish. I think
Hmm.
going into the playoffs, half the people are already fucked because Vanquish already has a half race lead off of playoff points.
That's so
MVP is
true.
trailing with like 16 playoff points, something like that. Probably even more now.
Hmm.
Actually, Vanquish has over 30 playoff points. Like, it's gonna be, in order for this champ four, it's gonna go right down to the fourth playoff spot. I think top three are already dialed in. So it's just still. I heard Vanquish second race at Mugello. It was like, oh no. I've raced with him in a league before, and that man, it's just something else. But thanks for having me. Um, yeah. Oh no. Yeah.
That's all right. That's all right. We'll catch you. We'll catch you later. Hey, who knows? Maybe somewhere down the line you can do like a little makeup episode
Oh,
of
definitely.
whatever you're gonna miss. But thank you, Off Road, for being here on this week. And if you gotta go, man, then go ahead.
Yep. Tune in on Saturdays, guys. 8,
Mm-hmm.
8 Eastern. No, 8 Central is when the race starts.
Eight Central, yes, 9 Eastern, 8 Central is when the broadcast is supposed to start. And oh yeah, and this weekend we will have broadcast qualifying. So qualifying will be included in the broadcast.
All right. Don't have too much fun without me, boys.
Never.
Good night.
Nice. All right. So off road, he gave his thoughts. Panda, what would you say is your XRS champ for?
Um, huh. So here's the situation that I'm looking at. We got two drivers, 100%, no chance that they don't make it, MVP and Vanquish, unless they decide that they don't want to race the playoffs because they just want to be nice to us. But I'm doubtful of that. Um, I think that they make it. I think that Cart makes it just simply off the fact that Cart probably has 10 plus playoff points right now,
Mm-hmm.
probably a little bit more than that. I think he makes it simply off the fact that he is just so good at those ovals, and he will easily get top five at Indy, and he will do good enough on the road courses, couple top fives. So he will probably be the third driver. Where it gets confusing is this fourth driver, this fourth position. We have, um, if we're looking at it right now, I would say I don't know about Coulter because Coulter said he might not make a race. So he
Mm-hmm.
might even just be completely pushed out of the playoffs. No chance. D-Dog would probably be my favorite pick for that fourth spot. But
Mm-hmm.
I think long shot is Reno. I feel like Reno he can kick into gear when he has to. He will get that fourth playoff spot if he makes it in the playoffs and there's no issues.
There's a couple solid tracks in Reno's tenure in his career. Most of his career wins have come at Daytona, and with that race being the final regular season race, you know that Reno's going to bring it. I mean, after all, he
Yeah.
already won Daytona earlier this season. He won the XRS 500. So, you know for sure Reno is going to do all that he can to try and get that win, uh, so then he build momentum in the playoffs. In the actual playoffs themselves, Reno has been improving in the road courses. I've noticed in the broadcast, the Indy road course, he had a very strong showing there. Uh, I would say he was probably top three that race. Like, he had really good speed. And so, as long as he holds his own in the road courses, and then obviously he does well at Watkins Glen, that's obviously a fan favorite. No pun intended, but that's a fan favorite track, and that's a heavily driver favorite track. That everybody just seems to run one of Watkins, and then he does have a career win at Homestead when he fought D Dog for the championship. So
Yeah,
Reno, he can
Reno
for sure
has
fight.
that. He has that title of that
He can
mini
find
season
something.
championship.
hmm He can all of a sudden surprise some people, make a good run, kick it in the high gear, as you said. Now, actually, looking at the chat, um, so Rocket is in the chat right now, and he actually is asking a question of where do you feel do you rank in the XRS roster?
Me
So if we
personally,
had so if we had power rankings, where do you think you would rank in the XRS roster?
okay. A lot of it depends on how many drivers we are, what drivers we're saying are part of the quote unquote XRS roster. If we're saying anybody that started a race this season, I would probably put myself in the 10 to 15 range. If we're saying anybody that completed about half the races, I would probably say anywhere from the 8 to 10 range. I feel like
Hmm.
I have enough pace to be
I,
able
I I
to
would agree to put you like just inside the top 10, somewhere
just
around there.
inside.
Yeah.
I feel like 8 or 9 is a solid spot for me. Because I feel like there's some drivers that at the beginning of the season I wasn't beating, and I'm not going to name names,
Hmm.
but towards the end of the season I am starting to notice that I'm beating these drivers that I haven't been beating in the past. So I think I'm starting to move up the ranks. Not
Yeah.
quite there yet. I still have a
Obviously,
lot
yeah.
to practice, but I definitely think that at the beginning of the season I would put myself 10 to 15, and now I would say I'm 8 or 9.
I mean, and improvement has for sure can take you very, very long way. Whether it's been over a season on how much you said you've improved so far from the beginning of the season to now, or even exponentially over the past few seasons. Because I would say, for me personally, because last season I was still a competitor, and then a couple seasons ago I was still a competitor in XRS. I would say that you were mostly you kind of plateaued at an 10 to 15 range driver in the
Yeah,
power rankings. You kind of just stayed there. You were a little stagnant. But this season, like you said, you have made a lot of improvement there, and that's good. That's obviously very good. Any driver, I would say any driver would want that. But if we have like four, five, six guys who are all trying to improve themselves, that's what really creates the competitiveness that we see at XRS. Because everybody gets faster at the end of the season in comparison to how they were at the beginning of the season.
I feel like if there was a most improved award for this league, I would probably have won it every single season since I joined because I don't know. I maybe except last season. I think you're right. Last season I had a issue with scheduling where I had IRL racing on nights of the XRS races. So probably not
Mhm.
last season, but definitely every season I've gotten a slight bit better, and I don't know. The other thing I'm interested to see is what happens when we get this new game. What happens when we move on to the new game? Does everybody just end up resetting in skill level? Does somebody that's not normally that good move up because of it's a completely different game, different physics?
Mhm.
Does a
Also,
driver that's normally fast move down? Like, let's just take a name. Let's just say Kart's not used to a super sim like game because I don't think I've ever seen him play iRacing or anything like that. And if the game ends up being super sim like, will people that aren't used to that suffer?
mhm. It'll for sure make it very, very interesting. Uh, I can tell you for sure. I still won't be racing. So when the new game comes out, I've kind of devoted myself to this media role. Uh, but that's a very good point to make, though. Like everything from what we're hearing from Turn 10 thus far, this game is going to be very different in comparison to Forza 7, 6, 5. It'll be very different.
We got the same game
And
for a couple years in a row, and if it's going to change
hmm
that much,
yeah, if it's going to change this much, that's a really good point to bring up. Because you never know what we're gonna see. I'm sure we're gonna see some people like Vanquish, of course, if he sticks around XRS for the new game, he'll
that's
probably still be
yeah,
fast.
that's not a
Vanqu-
question.
yeah, Vanquish, he'll probably still be fast, but will he be as dominantly fast as he is now? Because
I
obviously
think
Vanquish, he practices a lot, and I think Vanquish was like an early tester for Forza 7 before the game came out. So he has a lot of experience behind this game. This time around, from what I heard from him, unless he's not allowed to say it, I don't think he's been invited this time to try and do some like alpha or beta testing for the game.
yeah, this season was good. I did really enjoy this season. There was definitely some drama, some interesting stuff, but I really am excited to see the bombshell of a season we get on the next game just because of I feel like things are going to tighten up a lot. I feel like everybody's going to be kind of on even playing ground, minus maybe just general driving ability.
It'll
and
kind
it's
of be
gonna
like
be
what we saw. It'll kind of be like what we saw in real life NASCAR when we got the next gen car. I
and
mean, we had
yeah,
so many winners, so many people were fast at different tracks. Like we didn't. I would have never thought that Eric Jones was going to win a race last season, and yet Eric Jones was competitive in a Petty GMS car.
and who was
Well,
that really
now
young kid that
now
got to the
Legacy
top
Motorcycle
four?
Club.
Who's that really young kid that got to the top four?
Christopher Bell.
Yeah, Christopher Bell. That was definitely the
Yeah,
more surprising one.
yeah, Christopher Bell, surprising. Joey Logano, last season's champion, he was under
Yeah,
the radar.
yeah,
He was under the radar for the entire season. I mean, he won the Clash, but then he didn't really show up until Phoenix at the championship.
yeah.
Like, he was just lurking right there. And then some other surprises. Martin Truex Jr. didn't win a race, nor did he make the playoffs. Ryan Blaney, he had a very successful run, but he didn't win a race either. So many things happened last season in NASCAR for real life. Who knows? Because usually a lot of things get amplified when you put it in a video game. When you try to replicate that in a video game, and who knows? We don't even know if we're going to have NASCAR in
Oh Lord,
the next
yeah.
video game. So if we don't have NASCAR, then obviously we'll probably we'll go a little behind the scenes here, sure. From what I know, from what I know is that XRS for sure, since I very much work with cartoon culture a lot. Very much we have plans in place for whatever direction Turn 10 Studios goes in for Forza Motorsport. Or Forza 8, whatever you want to call it.
We are
And
prepared.
we are prepared in every route they go with. We are prepared if they decide to release it in late spring like they initially wanted to, but obviously now things look like it's going to be pushed back.
No hate to
Uh,
turn 10, but come on, guys. You can't give us a date and then change the date. I understand being
we're
pushed
prepared.
back to get a better
We're
game.
prepared. We're prepared if they delay it all the way back to fall of this year. If they delay it all the way back to fall of this year, we're even prepared in a very backup plan if they delay it all the way to 2024. Now that will kill our hearts if they delay it all the way to 2024, but I don't think they will. But even then, XRS does have a plan. We do have a plan. We will provide racing, and we will provide potentially in the future multi-series racing might return to XRS to where we're going to have multiple series running at the same time. So we for sure have a lot of plans for XRS, and it's just a matter of where Turn 10 goes. The second we have a date, and the second we have more trailers and information, and it looking like, nope, it's not going to be delayed anymore. We're going to have the game released on this day. XRS for sure has a plan. So that's the extent what I'm going to say.
Fancy gonna
Because we
sing
have
as I
been looking
look.
at a lot of things. Yeah, so hey, and those are different objectives that you can get out of this podcast. Okay, with me being here, I can give you that little bit of insight of what's happening. Obviously, can't say in full detail, but for sure a little bit of previews there. We'll do some couple quick finishing thoughts here. Man, oh my God, Rocket. I just looked at chat again, and Rocket, he says, I'm the fast guy no one talks about, and Panda knows it.
I don't know. I was doing some testing with Rocket earlier, and if he races this weekend, I'd watch out for him. I would. I wouldn't
Well,
keep my mouth shut.
well, Rocket, if you're still in the stream, I see that there's 2 viewers, so I don't know if it's that you and Subsonic, you both have been chatting here in the chat. If you both are here, chatting right now, Rocket, are you actually planning on the race this weekend? Because it has been a while. It has been a
He
while
did race
since
last
I've seen
weekend.
Rocket race.
He did race last weekend. I
Ah,
knew
of
you
course, the
weren't
race
there,
that I
but
missed.
yeah.
Well, I missed a handful of races this season, so scheduling conflicts and all that. Last week it was a family emergency that happened last minute, so. But everything's good over there. So, finishing thoughts. Panda, I just realized I never gave you a definitive answer for Cup Series Champ 4. I apologize.
Yes.
Um, I'll throw Kyle Busch in there for Champ 4. I'm going to throw Ross Chastain in there. Ross
Okay.
Chastain, I feel like he's going to have actual momentum to put himself into the top 4. Because, I mean, the Trackhouse guys, they've been consistent as well. The first few races here in the Cup Series season. So, I mean, they've been good there. I think Ryan Blaney finally makes a good run.
Whoa,
I, th- I,
whoa,
I'm
whoa,
saying,
whoa, fam.
I'm saying, Ryan Blaney is actually going to make a good run, and Ryan Blaney will make it into the Champ 4. Okay, so I have Kyle Busch, Ross Chastain, Ryan Blaney.
You got to give it to the championship for merchant here. The guy who always makes it but never wins.
And then who's the last guy that I'm gonna throw in there? I'm gonna throw in. I'm blanking on his name. Damn it.
You got a number, a color?
Actually, no. I won't. No, I won't. I won't put him Champ 4. I'll put him. I'll put him top 8 though. I think. I think underrated. I think Eric Almirola is going to be in the top 8.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think he could probably make top 8 this season.
Definitely seeable. Especially after what he did at Daytona.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to say final Champ 4 spot. I mean, maybe I should put a Hendrick guy in here. Just thinking about it. I'm gonna say Alex Bowman. I'm gonna put him over Elliott because even though Elliott, I mean, he's NASCAR's most popular driver and he is pretty good, but Elliott, he actually lost a lot of momentum last season in the playoffs. His entire playoffs were just utter trash. He was not performing. I think he got one top 10 in the last 10 races. He got one top 10. Or in the final 9 races, so not including the championship race. So pretty much the playoff races, excluding the championship race. In that 9 race run, Chase Elliott only got one top 10. He had no momentum.
He fell off a cliff.
Yeah, he fell off a cliff. So Elliott, I think, is going to find trouble again. He might be strong early. I think Larson might be strong early summer. Early summer, Larson's probably going to be strong. Byron, he's going to be a little under the radar. He might be top 8. I don't think he'll be Champ 4. And then Alex Bowman, I think he's going to pop off right at the end. Like, he's going to be barely in the top 16. I'm going to say he's probably going to be a 12 to 16 driver. But when the playoffs begin, Bowman's going to find his rhythm. And he's going to have a successful playoff run.
It's just like football. It's when the playoffs start, there's no
guarantees on
everything
who's exactly
resets.
going to be good.
I mean, not everything resets because you still get your playoff points.
Well, yeah.
But still, everybody's pretty much on even playing ground.
Mm-hmm.
I personally
very
would
interesting.
go. I'm gonna go against your call about Hendrick. I'm gonna say Chase Elliott does make it.
Okay.
Just because.
That's fine. that's
because
perfectly...
he's
okay.
he's still Chase Elliott. We still have to recognize his one championship that he got. Does he have one or does he have 2 now?
I believe he has 1.
Yeah.
Didn't he win 2020? Was that the one that he won?
You can't disregard
so no,
championship. Um,
Yeah, and he still has made the Champ 4 many times before. So, yeah, he for sure is a good driver.
I am gonna take. I was talking about him earlier, Christopher Bell. I think he comes back just because I
Hmm.
think he's a really good driver. I don't care how bad his car is. I think he'll find a way. And Denny's my boy. I gotta take Denny. He's made every year.
Danny.
He's got to get
All right.
final couple runs at it. And I'll put Bush in. I'll put Bush in just because I feel like he's gonna make the best out of that RCR car.
For sure. For sure, no. With the early momentum that Kyle Busch has built, he has done very, very well. So, and I think Elliott, he said after Fontana, he said, why is anyone surprised? Like, why is anyone surprised? It's Kyle Busch. He's for sure someone that you shouldn't knock out.
All right, closing remarks.
Yeah, I mean, you off road. Well, he needed to leave early, but thank you for being here, and thank you for chatting, sharing your thoughts, experience, going through everything. Hopefully, you never know. Later down the line, we could have you be on the episode again. We can have you be on another show, and who knows? Maybe we'll be talking to a different panda. We'll be talking to maybe a panda with a win under his belt and some more success to talk about. So
Maybe a contender panda
maybe a contender panda.
with the like you said exponential way that I'm improving. You know, we never know.
Never know. You just never know. Huge thank you to AK, even though obviously not here again for episode 2. We promise when AK is able to come back, he will come back full swing, podcast, broadcast, and all. But huge thank you to him. He is the producer of this show, and he is the one able to make it possible, being kind of like the namesake of the Wheel to Wheel podcast. He was the one that started Wheel to Wheel podcast. But in this collaboration with him and XRS, we're able to make it happen. Uh, for those of you who might be watching this later or watching this right now, this car is different on my screen from the car that we had last week, and it's because we actually have the logos now. So the Wheel to Wheel podcast logos, those were made courtesy of D-Dog. D-Dog did an awesome job. There you see the rear bumper, Wheel to Wheel podcast, and then obviously on the hood we have the big Wheel to Wheel podcast logo, or not on the hood, on the roof of the car, and on the side of the car. So huge thanks to D-Dog, huge thanks for AK. Never know, one day we'll have both of them on the show eventually. But yeah, Panda, thank you once again. I wish you luck this weekend's race at Road America. And then obviously finding that last bit of momentum as we were talking earlier. So thank
Yeah.
you for being on. Hopefully we can have you again soon.
Yep. Glad to be here. Thank you.
All right. We will see you this weekend's broadcast over at Road America. Signing off for now.